What's happening, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Rust. That's right, today we're going to show you what it's like to play a day of PvP on Rust. So first of all, we spawned in on the beach, and of course, the place is loaded with bases, mate. There's bases everywhere. They're all over the place. Like, look at this one, like right on the spawn, really. So the first thing we need to do is find a location. Okay, I can see an airfield, I can see an outpost, I think somewhere in between there, near that gas station. Let's go, bro, let's go. Let's head out. Okay, first thing we need to collect some food. We're not going to get far if we haven't collected the food. Once we've got our food, the next thing's resources. So let's jump onto that. Okay, once we got our resources, we started to head out to the place to make our first base. First thing that we need are our beds. Well, they're not really beds, are they? They're sleeping bags, but whatever, mate. We need them so that way we can put these down on the way. Okay, so this one I placed just outside the airfield, just in case something happens, I can respawn here. And we continued on our way to find the perfect location. We grabbed some more resources along the way, and then at last, we were there. We found our perfect location, mate. This looks like this is where we're going to build. So we placed our last sleeping bag on top of the hill, overlooking the peasants down below. Then it was time to start building our base. Now this part is where it gets serious. This is where you need to build the best base that you've ever seen in your entire life. Yeah, the good old 1x2. Let's add in the airlock. Actually, nah. That's not a good spot. That ain't a good spot, mate. That ain't a good spot. Okay, so I'm going to put the airlock on the other side. There's no real reason for it. I just kind of figured that side would be a better place to put it. Let's start adding some walls, mate. Let's start adding some walls. Okay, so from here, we started to realize we ran out of wood. So we had to collect our wood. So we went out, we collected as much wood as what we possibly could, mate. We chopped down every tree that... What happened there? I don't know what happened there. But started to place down our walls and make a secure base. Started to add the airlock, added a bit of a roof, and before we knew it, we realised we're out of wood. Back to collecting wood again. Something that a lot of Rust players are used to doing. And definitely something that you do a lot in the beginning of the game. You do still do it later, but not as much, mate, not as much. But as a solo player, we're not going to survive anyway, so it doesn't really matter. We just do what we can as we can. We collected more wood until the tree was completely gone, mate. Then we collected some more wood really, really fast. Once that one was done, it was time to return and finish building our base. Okay, we got our base built. Now it's time to upgrade as much as what we can with as much wood as what we've got. We thought we'd got pretty far before we realised we ran out of wood again. So we're back collecting more wood. There seems to be a war going on in the background. A bit of a raid across the other side. Probably not good for us, but, it's Rust. There we go. Once we started upgrading a bit more, we realised we ran out of wood again. So we came down to the bottom of the cliff this time to collect more wood. We're collecting our wood when all of a sudden... Oh, you see that one? See how close that come to us, mate? That was almost a goner right there. As we seen the lad, we thought we'd hide. Maybe we could hit him with an axe. Who knows? But either way, he just kept cruising, mate. He just kept cruising. Didn't even care about us. Looks like he was chasing somebody else. So we didn't worry about it. We just got back to chopping wood, mate. We had one last glance. Went to go cut down another tree. And just when we thought it was all over, mate, this is Rust. Dude comes down with an MP5, absolutely overpowered, and takes out the noob. The story of Rust, mate. We spawned back in on our bed on top of the mountain. An excellent spot to spy, to see what they're doing. Only to realise, not only was there one of them, there was two of them. Like, come on, bro, come on. Surely there's someone better you could take him down. At first we thought we found their base, thinking that we could get revenge on them later, only to realise they run around the back of it and take off over the mountain and far away. It's the last we're gonna see of those lads. I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it. Once we realised they were further enough out, they're no more of a threat, we decided it was time to get back to work, mate. It was time to get back to work. Now, surely that can't happen again. We come back to our body just to see if they happen to have left the wood, but no. You know, we grabbed our resources, what was left, what we had. Nothing to begin with in the first place, but whatever. And we went back to collecting our wood, mate. And collecting wood we did. We collected as much wood as what we could. Cleared the entire forest. Nah, but we cleared a couple of trees. We came down here, thinking everything was safe, having one last look, making sure nobody was around. We started to collect more wood. And of course, just when we thought it wasn't going to happen, the rust hit us again. Another lad. At this point, we're thinking we're never going to complete our base. Never going to get the wood that we need. As old mate takes off with our hard-earned wood. We respawn back on the mountain again. But in the good old Rust fashion, we just get back onto it. We just get back into it, mate. That's what you got to do in Rust. You just got to get up and get back into it. Otherwise, you're never going to get anywhere. We return to the body. You just never know. You might have left something behind, but, you know, nothing. At least we got our stone. Back to collecting wood, people. Back to collecting wood. We collected as much as what we could before we got bored of collecting too much wood. It takes so long just having a rock, mate. We returned back to our base and we upgraded it a little bit more. At this point, we're thinking we're pretty safe. We finally have ourselves a secure base. We make a door, we make a lock, and we get this place on a lockdown. Once I get my door, mate. Where's my door? There it is. Okay, we place the door, and then off in the distance, we can slowly hear a patrol helicopter coming in. This could play out to our advantage here. So we go down, we start to collect more wood. Most people would be afraid of this heli, but because we've got nothing, mate, it actually works into our favour. So as the heli passes, we collect as much wood as what we can while we think we're safe. But as we hear the heli flying off into the distance, we realise that we're no longer safe. The shots fly, and we return back to base. We managed to get the wood back this time and build our first cupboard. Probably our only cupboard. What am I talking about? Our first cupboard. But we get our cupboard. Once it's built, we managed to place it down, mate. Any minute now. There it is. We got our cupboard. At this point, we now have a base. It ain't the best space, but it's a base. And this here, after putting our wood in there, this is the first day of PvP back on Rust. And this is how, yeah, your usual day in Rust would be, especially for a noob, mate. So we're going to leave this one here. Hopefully you all enjoyed that. Smash the like button, consider hitting the subscribe, and as always, I'll see you in the next episode. See you later.